So the topic of the day will be breathing practice. So we've introduced the idea of breathing awareness in the previous video. What I will want you to do today is to actually try to practice it. To do so, it is very important to be comfortable with the idea of visualization. So oftentimes during the previous video, I gave you homework and it was always about either visualizing a scenario, putting yourself in it as much as possible, the feeling, the action, the thoughts, or actually practicing with another person, either a colleague, family member, friend, whatever it is, in your daily life, which is obviously, hopefully, still more comfortable than if a person will be threatening your life. So for this practice, as I said, it's very important to actually visualize it first, because what you will need to do to be really able to practice breathing in a context of, like I explained it, we often notice a difference in states such as shock or anger. And you can't really shock yourself. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. And well, the shock is coming from the outside, and you can't expect it, and you can actually prepare yourself, take a bit of time for yourself, step by step. So for this breathing practice, you will need to, therefore use anger, which is why I think it's very important to try it with visualization first, because yes, we might all know someone that somehow always end up pissing us off. But the whole point actually in this is to not bring ourselves to that, not let them have this effect on you. So for this practice today, what I will ask you to do is to put yourself in a context, any context. And that example that you just gave, imagine it, see it. See this person, either that you know, a family member with who you have certain type of conversation that usually brings up a lot of emotion, negative emotion out of you. Or even you can imagine yourself, in a more threatening context, or even without necessarily being threatening. For example, if one of the things in life that you don't understand, that you will never understand, that you don't want to understand, or whatever it is, for example, a pedophile. And you could imagine yourself thinking, and having a conversation for whatever reason with a pedophile, and the pedophile is trying to explain to you why he is the way he is, and for you, it's just, there's no explanation to it. You will never be able to get over that. So it's really about that. Think about something that is going to bring your emotion over the top. And then once this is done, once you actually feel it, I think at this point, hopefully, or if it's not the case, it's okay. You can just try to be a bit more aware of that, is to, bring yourself to a point where you actually feel your heart racing more, and you actually feel your face being all contracted, so your teeth knocking into themselves, your forehead being half thrown, your fist closing up, tighter and tighter. And then you need to actually remind yourself, like, okay, for example, if it is with the pedophile, yes, he is a pedophile, and you will never agree to his point of view, and yes, you could have a child or not, it actually doesn't matter, But the point is that right now, even if you would have that conversation with the pedophile is no threat to you. He's actually not threatening your life at this very moment. You're actually just having a conversation. And even then, you could, I totally understand, you could say like, yeah, but this piece of shit is actually a threat to an everyday life child. And that could pump you up even more. But the thing is that you need to be in the moment. And the point is that you want to bring yourself back to a state where you're in control of your emotion, and you need to be able to say like, well, there's no danger. There's no danger. There's no point for me right now to bash his head into the wall until it bleeds out. So to do that, obviously, no matter, again, I'm bringing the fact that, like I said, you had the conversation, but in the end, there's nothing that could convince you that there's a reason for a person to be, sexually attracted to a child. So no thought could bring you back. So what do you use? You use your breath. And the breath you're going to be using, the concept of it, is what we call the square breathing. Ideally, in a non-performance practice. So it will be for relaxation. And this is something that, if you look at a lot of studies with firemen, soldiers, if it's a research about breathing, oftentimes it's going to come up. Because like I said, again, it's actually a function that regulates your body. If you do that square breathing, for example, before an exam, before a presentation, or whatever, something that makes you nervous, it is proven that actually your heartbeat is going to go back to, if not completely go back, at least as close as possible to your regular heartbeat. So what you want to do then is to really just inhale for 3 seconds, keep it full for 3 seconds, exhale, ideally by the nose, for 3 seconds, and keep it empty for 3 seconds. So the whole thing is by the nose. I mentioned the exhale because sometimes this is the one where it's more touchy for people, but also the inhale obviously is through the nose, and it literally just looks like that. So it's and you do about maybe ideally, 3 to 6 repetition of it. Normally, it should be good. If it's not the case, just don't panic. Just keep doing it, And eventually, once in your practice, in your visualization, you do it, and the more you see that, okay, my hands are getting looser again, my jaw seems less contracted, my eyes seems a bit more soft. Eventually, obviously, what you want to do is to actually practice it with someone. And the idea is that that you're going to get mad with that person. You know that they're going to end up being a topic where you usually lose it. But the goal is obviously to not to. So you will do that. And even eventually better is that you will be able to speak while using this technique, this square breathing. And eventually, once this is done, so you're just speaking with someone, yes, your emotion may be high and then they're going to go back low and whatever, and sometimes, people, you will notice that actually you're getting out of breath from being angry, for example. But once this is comfortable, you can practice it obviously when you do training. So when you're running, jogging, if you do fighting, probably it's something that you've already been introduced to. And again, it's a practice that, like I said, firemen use it, soldiers use it, but it's also proven to be useful to control your stress and anxiety issue. So that will be all for the week, guys. Have fun with this. Hopefully you will actually notice a huge difference in your mindset, in your whole body, if just even a bit more released and relieved through it. That will be the ideal.
Never make that mistake again.